Today we're starting work on the nation's first airport. With Sunny Isle's new financial district taking shape, high-speed rail connections in place, and development spreading further into the island's interior, the city needs a new gateway. But in classic Sunny Scunny fashion, we won't simply plop down a runway and call it finished. We'll break down the project into a series of smaller, more detailed builds, starting with the transport connections, nearby businesses, and the beginnings of a new district around the terminal. So please keep the aisle clear for takeoff, and welcome to Sunny Isle. Thank you Manta Sleep for sponsoring this video and supporting the channel. It's always sunny in Sunny Isle, but on my last camping trip it was a little bit too sunny. Fortunately, I had my Manta Sleep mask and I slept in every morning. What I like the most is its premium design that provides 100% blackout. It has comfortable eye cups that keep pressure off my eyes, and the fact that they're great for when I'm sleeping on my side. Manta Sleep uses breathable materials that helps air move through the mask and is made to be fully adjustable with anti-grip that helps keep it in place. For your next purchase, use discount code SUNNY10 for 10% off. Hi everyone, we're back down at the Stadium District, and you guys gave me some pretty good feedback on the area, helping to improve it in the future. I do need to add some underground car parking around the stadium for sure, but one suggestion which I really liked was adding a new stop for the bus line that we've got running through this area. If we have a quick look at transit overview, this purple line which runs up through the valley and down to Marlow Cove cuts right through the centre, and we've got a stop down near these shops here, but as a few of you have suggested, we could have a stop closer to the stadium, closer to this cinema down here, and I think that's an excellent idea. And I think if we snap on to the end of that path there, we've got this little country path that runs through the area, and we can connect that up, and then we can bring that in. We'll bring that across here and then connect it up to the edge of this intersection there. We'll add a little bit of a surface to clean that up shortly. Let's go into our transport view, and I really like the look of these Transport for London bus stands, and I like to place these just after the traffic lights so that the bus doesn't have to wait for anyone. And then we simply just need to plug these in. You can see I've got a couple of waypoints to remind me where to put these, and that should allow people to have better access to this part of the map, which is a great suggestion. So let's go ahead and make this a little bit of a park around these tram tracks and make it look a little bit nicer, and then we'll start working on that airport. Okay, so we've got a pretty little corner of the build now, somewhere nice for people to walk through as they head to the bus stop. Now, I'll be interested if anybody is actually using these yet. So let's click on this and have a look at the toggle traffic routes. And yes, we can see that a few people are already starting to use them, which is lovely. So as we look over Sunny Isle and seeing how it's grown over time, we've got different ways of people coming into the city. We've got the ferry, and we've got the high-speed rail, and of course we've got the highway that runs to the edge of the map. But today I want to focus on building an airport. Now, I've already been planning this airport for a long time, and I do want to create something that's custom, and so I've earmarked this space, which is around about 2 kilometers long, for the runway, and then I think this area at the top here can be used for the terminal and other services. We've got a couple of connections that we need to make. We've got the subway metro line that runs over the top of the warehouse district. We've got the subway depot there, which allows trains to be fed onto the line. We've got the highway road. There is access into the city at the interchange here at that little clearing, and then it goes through a tunnel, and we'll have to bring that down and connect it down here. We also need to consider some of the local connections. We've got a small country lane here in the Goldfields area, and then we've got this dual carriageway that runs along the side of the city a little bit closer to the action, which I imagine will be used mostly for local journeys. And we'll need to bring that around and into the terminal space at the top. I'm going to use radius delete. With everything cleared out, you can see how much space this is going to take up. This is the flattest piece of land that we can build this on, and we do have a little bit of a hill at the end here, which I'm trying to avoid. So we may need to angle the runway a little bit further this way where the hill isn't as tall. But given that this is a short runway, we're only going to have small aircraft through here, and I think they'll be able to manage with the incline and decline quite easily. Now, it's never been easier to build an airport now that we got the air transport block. And if we just plop one of these down, these are by StarQ. You can pick these up on the PDX mod store. Once you place this down and you start adding all the upgrades, we won't be able to move it in the future. So we'll place this down, and we might have to move it. But when you move it, you have to move all the upgrades as well. So let's grab the 2-kilometer runway. Let's turn off the snapping so that we can place this down a little bit easier. And preferably we'd have around about 300 meters away from the runway. Yeah, perfect. And with that there, let's just place down an apron, and then we can start to build out the infrastructure around the airport itself. What I love about using StarQ's airport blocks is that it now includes all the line work, so you don't spend so much time having to detail your runway. You can get stuck into building that amazing new highway connection or terminus. So why don't we start down here where we're going to place down a few buildings. Now for the terminus, I've been thinking of using a functional building in the game so that it still attracts some people, some traffic, and I really like the look of one of the high schools. And I think it's from the Japanese pack. Here it is, it's the Japanese college. And if we have a look at this, this is quite a minimalist looking building, something you might expect to see at an airport. So I think one of these down here will be great. And I think there will be quite good. I like the look of that. And if we have a close look at this, you can imagine this being some sort of terminus building, can't you? With some of these windows covered up, looking really nice. Okay, so to make this look a little bit more interesting, we do have the option to upgrade it with a faculty building and a cafeteria and store. So I think I'm going to do that. I'm going to make this building have a larger footprint. I think I'm going to have a road go through here instead. So I'm going to just remove these footpaths for now. And that might break something, but we can always come back and fix it. And I'll leave those there. And then I'm going to grab a road. Let's have this stick to the side of the building. And let's see if we can angle this up nicely. And have it snap to the end of the road there. And I think that would look quite interesting. We'll bring that all the way through like that. And you can see that we're so close to that building. Let's move it along just a little bit, turning off the snapping tools and just hide that fence. And this could be the upper deck where we have arrivals, and then we could have the bottom deck where we have departures. Or maybe the other way around. I think the upper deck is usually where we have departures. Yeah, I quite like the look of that. And to make this look a little bit more interesting at the top here, I'm picking up one of these sport park stands that usually come with stadiums. That will be good around there. So let's move it. You can see that we've got all the seats down there, but let's drag that along and we can start to create a little bit of a roof canopy. Perfect. And now that gives us a really nice covered canopy for people heading into the airport. Down here we can even add some of our own details. Because I want this to be a central walkway through here, I don't want that column to be there. So I'm going to use network tools and let's add a separate column there. And then let's go symmetrically on the other side there. And then I think that should help us remove that one there. Oh dear. I want to add a metro stop on the opposite side here. So I'm going to put in another road I think we'll probably turn this into a bus-only road at some point. And I like the look of the modern subway station. So if we turn snapping on, I think there should be good. And that gives us clear access from the metro to the airport. And we should add a little crossing there so that people can get across. There we go. And we get pedestrian access all the way through here. That looks really good to me. Okay, so going into the air transport block, we've got these passenger gates. So this is a spot for pedestrians to enter and exit the building, and it requires road access. And we can add these down here where we've got some of these doorways. All right, that's looking super interesting to me now. The big challenge is, like, how do we get this connected up with the rest of the city? And you can see we've got a couple of roads that we can access down here, and we've got the highway, which is peeking out of the mountain here. So I think what we need to do is bring that road, bring that track through here, make those connections, and then we can start to build around it. Now, I really am making quite a bit of a spaghetti down here, and I have to admit it's not the most efficient road design system either. But the idea is we've got the metro running through the area that heads down to ground level and comes underneath the highway, and that heads straight into the station. We've got this big highway that I want to send straight into the airport zone. And then we have this local road, which I'm doing all sorts of nasty things to. But to get people back onto the highway, I don't want them to drive all the way down to the airport area. I'm giving them a separate ramp here, which isn't the most beautiful looking space, but I think it does the job just about right. What I'm going to do here, though, is create a super node. So we need to add an extra node onto this road itself. There we go. And then we go into super node and we select on these and it joins it together. Brilliant. And I imagine we'll get a lot of people wanting to make a right turn. So let's go and update this road to be a 3-lane road instead, just to give people more options when it comes to their lanes. And that fits in there really nicely. I don't think it will be used that much for the start. We might want to come back and use a roundabout here later, but I think this looks pretty good for now. I'll just clean up some of these odd sections here and then connect this road up to the airport area. And we can see what the rough skeleton of this road infrastructure will look like. And to be honest, I'm really liking the look of it. I've found these skinny little highway roads in my playset from Road Builder. Not sure where they came from, but they work really well. There's a little bit of cleanup to do. I can see there's a wonky ramp there, but I really like the look of that. Nice little highway loop through the airport. You've got the top ramp that takes you up to the top of the departure lounge, and then we've got a little bit of space around it to develop whatever infrastructure that we want to put down. If we want to put down some commercial industry, some civic services, I think this is looking really good. Now, I do want to plan for the future. While we don't have a tram track out here just yet, I do want to include a tram stop, and for that I'm also going to pair it up with a multi-level parking garage, which you think might not be the most appropriate building, but a lot of these airports have these large multi-story parking lots right near the terminal, so that business people waiting to pick people up can come in and just wait in here, pay a premium, all using the orbital roads. We'll go into our trams, and I'm going to use the custom tram station with side platforms. And then let's just pick the parking garage up, shuffle that over. And that looks nice. It looks like it was built all in one go. Now, what I would love to do with an asset like this is to connect it up to the elevated road. But I don't really think that's possible with the way this asset is built. It will just look a little bit awkward, but it could be an asset that's created in the future. I've seen custom assets that include road networks, so the potential is there, and I'm looking forward to it if the day ever comes. Let's bring that tram track through. Once we connect it up on one side, this icon will disappear, and I'm going to weave it across this road that provides vehicle access back onto the loop. And then we'll bring it through here. I don't necessarily want to connect to the road because I want there to be as little disruption through here as possible. Okay, so with the tram coming in here, it just terminates outside of the metro terminal. I think in the future, I would love to extend the tram through this main road that we've got going above the top of the city. We've already started to create a tram network through the stadium district, which it could link up to. We do also have a tram that runs through Chinatown in the warehouse district, but I think that one might be scrapped when we come round to fixing up all the trams. But I'm glad to get this in now so that we've got the opportunity to upgrade it in the future. Alongside this, I also want to include a cycle path and a pedestrian path so that people have options to get to the airport, especially if they live locally. I think the easiest way to achieve that would be to use network tools. Let's use the parallel tool. For the asset, let's choose the path with a divide and a cycle lane, and then we should just be able to select the first node and then bring that all the way down to the end there, and we can see it creates this beautiful cycle path through the area. Alternatively, if we change the horizontal offset, we can bring it closer to the road so that it's in between the road and the tram, and I think I do prefer that. All the way through here it seems to be pretty good. On second thoughts, I think I might remove the pedestrian path from this network and simply just go for a cycle path instead. This narrows this up and gives it a little bit of space between the tram and the road, and I think that looks a little bit better. And since we've got quite a lot of public transport options through the area, I can't see any good reason why somebody would want to walk to the airport. So let's create that parallel network. Yeah, so I clicked the button twice, which is unfortunate. So let's just go through here and delete the top layer, and I'm hoping that works without any issue. It does. Fantastic. Thank you, Luca, for creating such an amazing mod, and it was completely my fault for not using it properly. In this little corner, I'm going to place down a large bicycle parking hall, and that will just cap the end of that road nicely. So people coming in can come in to the airport, drop their bikes off immediately. We have a couple of options here. So we've got a rear entrance, which might be worth doing so that people can access this building without having to come around the front. And then we also have additional parking spaces, which I don't think we need at the moment. It gets rid of those trees at the back, but we will add the changing rooms so that if people are making that really long journey, they've got somewhere to freshen up. We just need to connect this up at the back so that people can access the building. And I think it's as simple as just putting in a little pathway coming up here like this. And I love that we're just adding to this so slowly and it's coming together bit by bit. It's unplanned, I'll be honest, but I think airports, even though they are heavily planned infrastructure projects, they evolve over many, many years and decades, and they can end up looking a little bit of a mess just like this. And that's kind of what I'm aiming for here. I don't want this to be a polished looking brand new airport. I want it to look a little bit lived in, and I think we're slowly achieving that here. Initially, I wanted to use this one-stop station, but looking at it, it's a little bit too big for the space. We might be able to squeeze it in over here though. And even though this spot isn't the most ideal, given that the metro skims over the top, I think it's good enough. We've got a column, so let's use move it and see if we can shuffle that over. And then we've got these petrol station signs, and then have a couple of these signs just along here. One here, and then perhaps one closer on the corner. And then one for good measure, I'm going to put one on the exit of the highway over there. And then using Better Bulldozer, I'm going to delete these sub-objects, and then that looks pretty good. And the way that we've created this road layout means that vehicles can easily enter into the petrol station, buy some goods, have a rest, and then if they need to exit, they'll have to follow along Birchdale Lane and then out onto the highway over here. Now, I imagine we might get a little bit more traffic through here because this is now a main intersection, but for now, I think it looks pretty good. The more I look at this metro depot, the more I don't like the way that it's set up. I think it looks like we ran out of space, and admittedly we did. We built this on the edge of the city. We'd only just unlocked a new map tile, but I think with this weird little slope here with this double bridge over the road, it just doesn't look very realistic to me. So I'm considering moving it, and I think I found the perfect spot. So I'm going to relocate this and essentially just add it on as an upgrade to our station that we've got just outside the airport. And I forgot to hit record, but I did get a little bit lost in the sauce, as Phil likes to say on City Planner Plays channel. And we've created this little industrial area on top of this tunnel, which I think looks pretty good. And that allows a metro train to come down here and into this side of the metro without having to head up this part of the line and reverse back out. Okay, so I've gone ahead and added a road to the front of this depot. We can then wrap it around, and if we have a look at our topography lines, we should be able to bring it underneath this metro track here. And I think I might just send it straight into this roundabout, since we're already adding a lot of connectivity through here, and I think this should be okay. I'm going to turn on our continuous curve tool and then just bring that all the way through here. And I'm going to extend it up a little bit here, and then we should be able to bring that through like that. It's a little bit messy, but I'll fix it shortly. And then I'm going to use network tools. Connect tool. I'm going to attach it to the end of that road there, connect it to this one, just have the default road turned on at the moment, which I think is fine, but we can play around with this and make it look a little bit nicer. Yes, I like that. So let's pick up that road again, and then we just need to upgrade it. There we go, that looks fantastic. And then over here, again using network tools, let's add a node on that side of the track. Let's go into our road upgrade tools and turn this into an elevated section. I then want to grab move it and then select the nodes on this road. And then I want to bring that down. And it doesn't need to be too steep. I think that's pretty good. The only thing I would suggest doing is removing those retaining walls. I don't think they're necessary now that we've got the bridge. And then that provides a bit of access to the back of this tile. That has left a section over here pretty open, but I think we can go ahead and add some warehouses along here. These are by Joe, absolutely fantastic little industrial assets. These are by Venom. These are modern industrial distribution centers. These look more like data centers to me, or offices. I really like the look of that, and I think that's a pretty good use of old industrial land. Bringing more professional jobs out into the area, I think that looks really nice. I am using these car parking roads, and the one issue with these roads and using one-way roads is you do get a lot of these unnecessary signs. A little crazy, but I'm not going to stress about it. It looks pretty good to me, and it's a nice addition onto this little motel, and I think I would be happy to come visit here if I needed to stay near the airport. It might be a little bit noisy near the road, but I'm sure it'll be pretty cheap. Now, I'm having some second thoughts with this little interchange here, and I think it might be just a little bit too steep. If we go into Network Tools and select on this starting node, and let's select on the node at the top here, and it is giving us around about 4 to 5%, which is okay for short stretches. And if we have a look at this other one here, the ramp is super steep. This is 7-8%, far too steep in my opinion. So I think I'm going to replace this with something a little bit more elegant. Okay, and I think that's a pretty good looking solution. We just need to do a couple of fixes, such as turning this into a single lane there. That looks good to me. And this slope here is a little bit weird, so let's go into Network Tools and let's slope it from there and then start it here. And then that just evens it out. It's still quite steep, to be honest, compared to what we had before. I'm going to turn on constant slope and apply that. And that looks quite good. I quite like the way that this cuts into the hill just a little bit. Adds a nice little feature to the area. We also need to make sure that we've got street lights along here so that it's a safe place to drive. And it also carries electricity to any other buildings that we've got in the area, potentially in the future. I think that main highway is fine. I think everything through here is all connected up. This little slip road into the petrol station can have some lights. And then I think to give the residents of this motel some respite, I'm going to add a sound barrier. And the petrol station is not going to be very happy about this because it limits the visibility that it has. So we'll extend that to there. Unfortunately, you can't add it onto elevated sections, but I think we could make this a little bit shorter. So if we line this up to that section there, and then we just need to turn off the sound barrier on that little segment. And I think that looks quite nice little feature there, and it just protects anyone trying to get a good night's sleep. Like I said, I would love to be able to add it onto the elevated section, but I think this is pretty good. What we could do though is, since we've got this cycle path coming through here, we could add a pedestrian connection to the area. Instead of just having it as a single bike lane, I'm going to convert it into a cycle path lane. I think it makes sense when we're close to the city like this. Let's drag that all the way through and update that end there. We might want to add in a pedestrian bridge instead of having people cross the road. Something like that might be quite nice, or even an extra long one. Is that going to stretch all the way across? Plop that there. Let's go back into our dual cycle and pedestrian path. Let's update that. Let's have it go in the opposite direction. There we go. And we can move this over just a little bit so it lines up with that pedestrian path. I like that. And I think that's pretty good. It doesn't need to be super tidy. I quite like the look of that. And I think this looks good to me. I'm just going to add a couple of trees along here just to shield people staying in the motel from the petrol station. Might be quite nice. And then we'll just stretch that along here. Let's turn off anarchy. And that's quite nice. There we go. Very good. Nice little cozy area by the airport with a few places to work, a place to stay, or somewhere to get something to eat or fill up your car. I was getting a pathfinding error with the ones from the City Stations asset pack, and this one seems to be pretty good. We do have the option to add this pole, but I imagine that's going to cause more issues than good. Although it might be a nice little detail. If we add that there, if we go into our props tools, and then we find some of those concrete barriers, I think that might be quite interesting to have a few of these along here. It's probably going to cause more accidents than good, but pop that there, and then we'll do the same on this side as well. That looks quite interesting. And then we may as well go all the way to the end here and provide a little bit of protection for vehicles through here. Yeah, I quite like the look of that. And if we hide the road name, that's an interesting little feature there. I think we do need to get some barrels at the end here. Let's make sure that these snap upright. Yeah, that looks quite nice. Nice little feature that. And with that, we have the airport. No, I'm just kidding. I was a little bit worried that I had nothing to take a photo for the thumbnail, so I created this little diorama using a few props, a few planes, and a couple of buildings that I've actually considered creating the airport out of, because I am finding this building a little bit uninspiring. Although I think we could combine the two. Say we grab this, and then maybe we imagine this was a part of the original airport, and then we put a few along the front here, just to help line the building, make it feel like it's made up of different pieces, and we could even go a little bit beyond. And of course, if we use the recolor tool and change this all to that nice lovely duo color, I think that looks quite interesting. Of course, we need to remove all the props and all the signs, and it would look something a little bit like this, but I think that might actually give the airport a little bit of history, a little bit of character, instead of it looking like any other international airport. This could have been a part of the original airport when it was much smaller and maybe had much smaller aircraft coming here. But yes, I cheated a little bit in the thumbnail. I hope that you forgive me. I think I've taken on a big project here, more than I've ever done before. If you look at the size of this compared to the size of Sunny Isle, it's almost the same size as the city. And it's projects like this where I easily get distracted. Building these little service areas along the edge of the airport, I think, is going to be a lot of fun. I've got a lot of big ideas. I think we definitely need to bring in a lot more assets through here. We can think about freight coming by air. We can think about hotels. We can think about security, fire. There's a lot that we can do. We've got a little bit of flat land at the back that we can introduce some industry, maybe some large distribution warehouses. And then along the coast here, I'm thinking of having some sort of coastal highway. Although it might be a little bit close to the airport, I'm not too sure. If you've got any suggestions for this area, get them in the comments down below, because there is sure time to come up with some new ideas. And I'll be working on this in the next couple of episodes. I think next time we'll actually get this airport functional, get some airliners in here, get some people down here, make it feel a lot more alive. As always, thanks for watching and take care. Goodbye.